Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. I want to do a little video talking a bit about the situation with Israel and Iran. Of course, a lot of things are unfolding very quickly, and there's tons of information on both sides of the campaign. As you know, war is disinformation and deceit, right? So there are lots of things that are being pressed around as information that can be a little misleading and everything like that. So we want to definitely keep that in the back of our minds here. But I think it's important to kind of talk about some of the things that are going on and, particularly some of the statements that I've made in recent days on the whole thing. And some of those statements might not be exactly what people expected to hear out of somebody like me. And you would ask, well, why is this even related to guns? This is a gun channel, Eric. Well, why do you discuss, in some situations, geopolitics or war or things like that going on in other parts of the world? Well, the reason is because it involves us. I mean, this is our tax dollars we're talking about here. All the support that we throw in the hat for other countries, be it Ukraine, Israel, etc. There are tons of situations like that where we're just funneling money into these situations, be it a proxy or not. And right now, okay, there are gains being made right now with the Republican Party in terms of getting the gun bills pushed through that we want through the Senate. Right now, the Short Act was added to the big bill, which is a win. We're talking removing SBRs, SBSs, suppressors, and AOWs from the registry and removing the tax stamp, removing the registry requirement. Now, from what I understand, it'll still need to be transferred on a 4473 over the counter, but that's a huge step in the right direction. Maybe completely gutting the NFA. So just that little piece of news, you think, all right, cool. The Republicans are doing good things, and they're at least on the surface trying to do what they said they're going to do, and what Trump campaigned to do was, he campaigned for the Second Amendment and for gun owners, and he seems to, knock on wood, Bondi seems to be delivering, Trump seems to be delivering, and so far the Republicans seem to be delivering. And I almost think like maybe it's just a platitude at this point where, they're hoping that by appeasing gun owners that maybe they'll look the other way on some other things that might be going on. And remember that politics, it very much is smoke and mirrors. It's a system of, trickery of the hand and the sleight of hand where they'll go, all right, well, here's something good while they're hiding something bad over here and vice versa. So, there are a lot of differing opinions on the situation between Israel and Iran. I've made my opinions quite well known on social media. Some of my theories are exactly what they are. They're theories, they're opinions on what I think could happen, the ways that I think we could be drawn into a greater conflict in the Middle East. There seems to be a fractured base within the Trump camp of people who do not agree with intervention in the Middle East, no matter what it would be. Particularly if it would wind up being boots on the ground in Iran versus, let's just say, bombing the ever-loving crap out of them and bombing them into submission, which at the time of me making this video seems to be, at least on the surface, what the overall plan is. And just to give you a time hack, the time is June 18th, 11:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So today's Wednesday, as we're hearing from mill bloggers and from press releases and some of the things that various members of Trump's cabinet are saying, including Trump himself. It seems that there's a couple of internal talks going on with Iran over the next couple of days. So the problem with these kind of videos is that while, yes, I'm giving my opinion, that opinion and the facts of the matter could very much change quickly because war changes quickly. So the issue with this is I have to put this video up quickly before something else crazy happens. But as of right now, they're lobbing missiles at each other like crazy. They're throwing haymakers at each other. Some of them are landing, some of them are not. But let's just say, for the sake of the argument of today's video, that it's a bloodbath, right? Israel's bombing Iran's, military industrial complex, let's just call it, command structure, command and control, government buildings, missile launch sites, production facilities, so on and so forth. And war, those are the things that you do. You try to eliminate the enemy's ability to produce the items of war necessary for them to wage war. Then, if that doesn't work, then you take it out against the civilians. And as much as it sucks, the civilian populace often is the recipient of, a lot of hate from the opposing military side. And as much as it sucks, killing the civilian population is an unfortunate byproduct of war, and it does happen, and sometimes it is used as a tactic. Now, we're not going to necessarily go into the weeds on that, but let's just say, as it stands right now, Israel is bombing Iran's military infrastructure, okay, command and control and everything like that. Whereby Iran, it seems like the stuff they're lobbing at Israel just seems to be indiscriminate, and I guess they'll just take whatever they can get in terms of stuff that's hitting. Now, obviously, from what I've seen, a lot of the missiles hitting Israel are hitting, the ones that are landing are, hitting, townhouses and apartment complexes and industrial residential areas and things like that. Now, I'm sure there are some military targets. But anyway, without going down the weeds of all of that, do I agree with intervention of the United States in the Middle East in this particular situation? Well, I really don't. And if you would have asked me 20 years ago if I thought, should we do anything in the Middle East, of course, my answer would have been very different. But over these years, many of us who were involved in the 19 years of the global war on terror and have been involved in it, some of us multiple tours, some of us have seen a lot of awful things, you begin to become quite jaded to the overall object of the mission, the overall, let's just say, intentions of the military you represent, the country you represent. And then you start to doubt, well, is it my country? Is my government actually my country? Like, am I actually doing something that is for the betterment of the people in my country? Or is this part of some larger ruse to conquer or, get resources or to enact regime change? So many of us over the years were sort of forced just by simple logic and understanding and observing the things that we see in front of us to see the situation for what it was. That, in the 19 years of the global war on terror, we were over there in the sandbox getting hemmed up, and where was the IDF? They didn't have a single soldier in the sandbox. We were the ones fighting that war, right? Now, there's going to be a lot of differing opinions about, they provided intelligence, they taught us how to up armor our helicopters, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, there's all these differing opinions about what they actually committed to that conflict versus what they got out of it. But the point that I'm trying to make is that here we are in what essentially seems to be Iraq 2.0, right? What happened in the first time around, okay? Oh, Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, okay? We have to go in the Middle East and we have to get Saddam out of power because he has weapons of mass destruction, and we can't allow that. Well, what's happening now is a repeat of the past. History is repeating. Now they're saying that Iran either has the potential or has the actual means to deliver some form of a nuclear weapon, which of course would be considered a weapon of mass destruction. Of course, we see this same thing repeating. Now they're saying with Iran, we can't allow them to have a big bomb. We can't allow them to have this, have that. Again, all speculation. Now, they're taking out what they seem to, the nuclear uranium enrichment facilities and all of the, let's just say, the industrial powers that are required for them to produce such a weapon. They are targeting those areas to, in their mind, try to prevent them from producing what they view as being some extraordinary, powerful weapon. Right now, Trump and Tulsi Gabbard are going back and forth at each other. They are not agreeing on what's going on. Tulsi Gabbard's assessment, which this is her job to come up with these assessments, her assessment is that in 2008, Iran agreed, or it might have even been as early as 2003, I believe, but I think 2008 was the date, was that Tulsi said, look, back in 2008, they agreed that they're not going to proliferate any nuclear weapons, right? So, again, there seems to be some growing discontent within the Trump camp, people that are disagreeing with even what Trump and some of the other people within the Trump administration have to say in regards to whether or not we should be involved in the Middle East, right? We just dispatched the USS Nimitz over to the Middle East, right? Now, that is an aircraft carrier that is due to be commissioned next year. Okay. I mean, is it to say that, is it a hunk of junk right now? Certainly not. It's obviously seaworthy, it's obviously capable, and it's obviously manned by some of the finest people that our country has to offer. I think there are 10 nuclear reactors on the Nimitz, so it is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, one of, I believe, 10 that we have, and it is one that right now is due to be commissioned. It was decommissioned. It was commissioned in 1967. 1967 is also the year that USS Liberty was attacked by the Israelis. So, this seems to be like sort of some odd poetic justice that's going on here. And, if you think about history and you think about, what our involvement has been in the Middle East, what our policy on the Middle East has been for the last, 10, 20, even 30, 40 years, you go all the way back to post-World War II, what our policy has been in that area, it has always seemed to be a policy of regime change, right? But what did that regime change always coincide with? It coincided with the countries that chose not to do business in the dollar anymore, right? Omar Gaddafi was taken out of power right after he said, we're getting away from the dollar and we're going to have our own banks and our own currency, okay? Saddam Hussein, you name it, the Syrian leader. So there seems to be this reoccurring theme. Now in Iran, what's happening? Right, Iran just announced that they were going to, be a part of, some other monetary system that doesn't involve the dollar. No more oil bucks. Okay, now what's happening? They want to, get rid of that regime and put people in that are willing to play ball with the banks. So you start to unravel a series of coincidences that are a little bit too odd to be a coincidence, right? Is that to say that the USS Nimitz, which I believe is in the Middle East right now, it was on the way earlier this week. I don't know if they've arrived at their destination yet as of right now. But is that to say that there's not going to be some dangerous situation later where maybe, some false flag attack could occur against the Nimitz and get blamed on Iran? Okay, obviously Iran could attack the Nimitz. Maybe nothing will happen. But you have to look at it historically and go, all right, who stands who stands to benefit the most from the United States being driven into a war that will then, enact a regime change in Iran? The banks benefit, and ultimately Israel benefits. And, I just find it to be a very disgusting thing. This isn't about necessarily the freedom of Americans. People would say, well, if Iran has a big bomb, they're going to indiscriminately use it against us. Guys, they have been telling us that Iran has been developing some type of a high-powered nuclear type of weapon for over 40, 50 years now. They've been saying, they're going to have it any month now. They're going to have it any month now. If they had it, y'all, and they had an intention to use it, wouldn't they use it? If they had it. Now, are there some greater powers that be that have a greater understanding and more intel than I do that know for a matter of fact, factually, that they were very close to achieving the amount of fissile material to produce a nuclear weapon and that they had the intention to use it? Of course, they're going to say the answer is yes, because they want to enact regime change. And this is ultimately more about regime change than it is about being worried about them actually having a bomb. So just like Iraq, again, we have to look back at the past and go, what does our experience teach us? Is that Iraq was more about getting rid of Saddam and getting them back on the dollar, not wanting them to get away from the dollar, and than it was, they had a nuclear weapon or a dirty bomb or something like that. So all we see is history repeating and the same thing happening over again. So some of my opinions on the matter, particularly on Twitter, have, some people have drawn a lot of hate towards me for my opinions. But the truth is I'm not with the neocons. I'm not with the warmongers. I'm not with the people who want to continue our Middle East policy until there's nothing but ashes left. Call it what you will, but, I've just had, much more of sort of an awakening about what I feel my own morals and values really are in regards to the way I value human life and the way I value freedom and freedom of association, freedom of choice. And is that to say that, okay, if Iran achieved this dirty weapon of some sort, would they use it? There's a lot of indications that point to yes. So one has to assume that they are an incredible danger to everyone in the whole world, not just us. But that's also to say that, all right, well, if some sort of a nuclear weapon is a type of weapon that can prevent wars from happening, all right, why does no one attack North Korea? North Korea has nuclear weapons. They have a nuclear weapon. We know they do. They've tested it. Well, why not attack North Korea? They have a weapon. You're going to attack Iran off the speculation of them having a nuclear weapon. Well, why not North Korea? They're your enemy. They're against you. Why not attack them? Well, genius, because they have a nuclear weapon. So nuclear weapons are a deterrent. All right. And I'm not saying that I think that every random, third world country should have a nuclear weapon. But, when we look at, let's just say, being armed, right? An armed society is a polite society. There are people who are anti-gun who think that not everyone should be armed because you shouldn't be able to stand toe-to-toe against people, or that the good people will always be there to protect you when you need them. The police will always be right around the corner when you need them. Why can't the same be said about a powerful military that is well equipped to defend themselves? If a country is well equipped to defend themselves, no matter who they are, let's say if it's a country you hate and disagree with, or if it's a country that you agree with, right? Why does it have to be the United States is involved in the Middle East? We are far removed from the Middle East. All right. Why not France or Germany or Poland? Or why not someone who's a neighbor, someone who is actually close enough by that if things got nuclear, there would be some crazy, disastrous fallout of hellish effects on the region? Why aren't those people up in arms about wanting to do something about Iran? If they are a nuclear threat, where are the immediate neighbors around the area that are allies as well, or allied to Israel, or allied to us? Why aren't they stepping in to do something about it? Why does it have to be us specifically? Why is it our tax dollars that get funneled into these projects? We funnel billions, if not trillions, over the years. I think it was $9 or $10 trillion over the course of the last 2 decades that we have funneled into the Middle East and tried to enact all these policy changes and to, bring democracy and all these things that they want to claim it is. But the only democracy I see are bombs dropping and people dying. And you have to wonder, what the real protocol is here, what is really going on. And I suppose all that my posts have really been about, and what my video here is about, is I want people to think critically about the stuff that's going on. Ask yourself if it really feels right or not. And there just really is a huge disconnect right now between Republicans, Democrats, and let's just say the MAGA types and let's just say the camp of Trump, the people who are hardcore Trump supporters and think that Trump can do no wrong. And don't get me wrong, I support the president. I support Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump. I think that Donald Trump is definitely a person we need in office right now, especially if you want to talk about hiding Biden. I mean, I certainly would not want Biden to be in control of the nuclear football right now. So look, I'm not saying I don't support the president. All I'm saying is, hey, we've gotten some gains, right, on this 2A stuff. That's good. We want to see the momentum move in a direction that benefits the people that live here on issues that we actually care about here, right? I just think that many people feel that there are greater issues here that are being ignored or not being handled in a swift enough or fast enough manner. Right, we want cheap gas, we want cheaper food, we want affordable groceries, we want affordable electricity, affordable power, we want to have the freedom to come and go, we want to have the freedom to protect ourselves in any way possible. We want all the torturous, devilish, evil, crime-committing, raping, robbing, murdering type of immigrants out of here as soon as possible. All the gang members and child molesters and child traffickers, we want all those really, truly evil people out of our country as soon as possible. We want them dealt with, right? And we can argue about the minutia of, a little old lady who's been cleaning hotels for 20 years. We can argue about her status later, but what we want to see are the truly, truly crazy evil ones out of here, right? That's what we want to see in that order. We want a triage, right? We want a triage effect of these policies. Right. In medical triage, what do? You focus on the person who's hurt the worst, right? If a guy's got a boo-boo, a scrape on his arm, hey, buddy, go sit in a corner and put some ice on it. We'll be to you in a minute. We got to deal with this sucking chest wound right now. Right now, we have a sucking chest wound, right, that we have to deal with. The guy with a scrape on the elbow can sit in the corner for a minute. He's going to be okay for a while, right? So triage. We need a triage of policy that involves the most important things to Americans right now, right? And I think I listed those things, and I don't feel like intervention in the Middle East or support of Israel is necessarily something that is on people's minds right now when they're struggling to make rent, they're struggling to pay their grocery bill, they're struggling to keep the lights on. I mean, people are hurting right now. And the last thing they want to do is hear about some aid package to a country that they'll probably never visit. And quite frankly, a country that they don't want anything to do with, right? They've seen the writing on the wall. They've seen all the things that have happened over the last 20, 30. Some people have gone back 40, 50 years. Some people have gone back, all the way to the 1800s and seen the greater geopolitical sort of football that's been thrown around in this region for a long time. And they don't want anything to do with it. And I think that I think the last poll that was done showed that like 65% of Americans disagree with intervention in the Middle East and disagree with military support of Israel. All right, so I'm not suggesting that should be your view, but I'm just saying look at it pragmatically, look at it critically. Don't think about what all the talking heads on social media are telling you. Think about it with your own brain. Think about all of the far-reaching implications of what is going to happen here, and ask yourself if it's what you really want. If you still side with the American government and want them to bomb the piss out of Iran, well then by all means, that's fine to have that view. All I'm saying is if we are the most powerful nation in the world militarily, then we also have the means to show that we have the way to foster peace throughout the world as well through power. Power can also mean peace if it's used in the right way. Walk tall, carry a big stick. You got to be willing to use that stick. But all I'm saying is we are in a very unique position to broker peace through power, rather than to exercise that power in some hellish way that's going to kill a bunch of innocent people. Because remember, when all of these neocons and boomers pass away and the torch gets passed on to people like me in my age group, we have to inherit all of this crap. And that also means that we're inheriting all the bad things that they did before. They don't have to worry about suffering the consequences. But at some point, we have to go back to doing business with these people. We have to go back to having trade. We have to eventually go back to real life and having relations of some kind with these people. We're not just going to cut them off completely, unless that's just what they want. But eventually, when wars end, you have to go back to the real world. And that means trade. And that means buying things from each other and finding some way to help each other out and to do business and to do trade. And do you really think that when you bomb the ever-loving piss out of them, that they're going to want to, have some business with us and our side of the camp? I mean, whether you see the value in that is irrelevant. And whether there is value in it is irrelevant. But eventually, the more and more you do this to people and the more and more you spread the message of, let's just say, power that is, exerted in such a way that's all you do is flex your muscle and just pound people into submission, eventually no one's going to want anything to do with you and you're going to become isolated in the wrong way. Our founding fathers wanted us to be isolated. They wanted us to do business with the outside world, but to stay out of their political affairs. Okay, but what happens when you get involved in their political affairs to the degree that the whole world hates you, and now you're isolated for completely the wrong reason? No one wants to do business with you. Everyone wants to change their currency, get away from your banking system, because they see the rot from the outside of the country, and they see the internal rot that we allow. All I'm saying is keep your eyes on the goal. The goal is really, for us to inherit a world that's worth inheriting as a country, for us to inherit a government that's worth continuing. And, these people who've been in office for 30, 40 years, longer than I've been alive, right? These people are in their 50s and 60s, some of them in their 70s. These people are not going to serve. They cannot go in the military and serve. Their kids are not going to serve. Their families are probably not going to serve. Some of them might, but probably not, right? So they will not suffer the consequences of their bad actions, right? So they can literally just throw the football around in any way they want and then just walk away at the end of the game and go, well, see ya, we're retiring now and we're just going to pass all of this crap along to you. All the debt, all of this bad decisions we've made, all of the enemies we've made, here you go, you can just have it, and we're going to go sit on our nice cushy mountain of money that we've made through all of this process, and y'all will just figure it out. That's what Americans do, right? Y'all just figure it out. So all I'm saying is, we have to be very pragmatic and careful and critical and logical about the things that we fully sign on to. You go on social media and you type your old little thoughts out and put it out there in the world. Like, people read that stuff and they interact with it, and it changes people's minds when you say these things. So all I'm saying is, really ask yourself if you believe the things that you're putting out there, and just be critical and logical about this situation. So no matter how you feel about our support of Israel, about our involvement in the Middle East, about our foreign policy, I think what we really have to look at is ourselves first. We cannot save the world if we cannot save ourselves. And that's really the message that I really want to convey in today's video. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you had a great day. We got many more on the way. Yes, got a bunch of range videos on the way, tons of stuff, some new things that you're really going to enjoy. So stay tuned. Lots on the way. We'll see you soon.